Yo, what's going on? It's ya boy, Shawnee Sean. And we got some NFL news and updates. Some new NFL coach hires. It's the Senior Bowl this weekend, so a lot of NFL prospects that we're sort of hearing for the first time. And want to get into some of that. So, to start things off, the Seahawks hire Ravens defensive coordinator Mike Macdonald as their new head coach. Mike Macdonald had one of the best defenses this season, led by Patrick Queen, Roquan Smith, Kyle Hamilton. Ravens were really good. Although even this in the AFC Championship, they held the Chiefs scoreless in the second half. Macdonald is only 36 years old, half the age of Pete Carroll, who's 72. So Seattle could have a very bright future, ideally, if things work out well with him. Macdonald wasn't in Seattle wasn't in with the Ravens very long. He was at University of Michigan also, with the other Harbaugh actually, and had fantastic results. But I guess he's tied to both Harbaughs, which is pretty cool. And now he's a head coach, and he'll be competing. No, he won't. Never mind. Yeah, never mind. He'll be put in Jim's old team. Anyway, that's pretty much all I got. I don't know too much about him. Seems pretty young and promising. I don't know if he'll do a particularly good job. I'm surprised that they didn't want to go with Dan Quinn or Mike Vrabel. I heard that they had a lot of interest in both of those guys initially. I like Mike Vrabel a lot, but maybe he wanted too much control in Seattle. I don't know if they even interviewed him. Bill Belichick's just as old as, if not older than Pete Carroll, so that's not going to work out either. And it looks like Bill Belichick's most likely preparing to take a year off and reevaluate the coaching scene next season. But we will see how that goes. And good news for the Texans and the Lions. They both retain their offensive and defensive coordinators. Texans keep offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick and quarterbacks coach Gerard Johnson, even though they were taking interviews. And Ben Johnson of the Lions also is returning after taking some interviews. And it looked like he was potentially going to be the coach of the... what's it called? The Commanders. Sorry, I can't get used to that name still. I love the Washington football team while it existed, I guess. It was a fun name. But give me one moment. This and then this and then that's what I want. Alright, cool. In other news, want to talk about quarterbacks and sort of how they might all be moving, especially with the draft order pretty much all set now. So it will be interesting to see how a lot of these quarterbacks land. A lot of these teams need quarterbacks, though. And to start things off, I think Justin Fields will most likely be traded from the Bears. Don't know exactly where he goes. I think that him and Russell Wilson have similar potential destinations. I think for Justin Fields, the ideal situation would be Atlanta, working with Bijan Robinson, Drake London, and Kyle Pitts would be a very fun offense. Um, but I think the somewhat more realistic potential landing spot would be the Raiders. Think that that would be a very cool pairing with him and Antonio Pierce, rebuilding the culture, and getting an upgrade from Aiden O'Connell for sure. So we'll see what they do as far as trade compensation and if those teams are even in the running. But I like those. As far as extensions, I think Kirk Cousins will most likely re-sign with the Vikings. To a relatively short deal, unless, and there's a big unless, but technically we're still before the Super Bowl, so if the 49ers potentially lose the Super Bowl and it's a detriment based on Brock Purdy, I think Brock Purdy's solid. He's made incredible throws all season, but they were potentially looking at Tom Brady at the beginning of the year. Did Brock Purdy do enough to solidify himself as the long-term quarterback in San Fran this year? I think so, but I wouldn't be too surprised if they took a feeler on Kirk Cousins. I feel like that's always a fun barometer. You know, Kirk Cousins is that sort of most average quarterback in my opinion, but I think he's good enough to win a Super Bowl, and on a stacked team like San Fran, he could potentially do it. But that being said, I really am hoping Brock Purdy proves the haters wrong. Mr. Irrelevant becomes relevant on the biggest stage, and I hope that he defeats Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs. But we'll get to that, I guess, maybe a little later. Moving on to Baker Mayfield, I think that the Buccaneers will most likely re-sign him. He looks like he found a long-term home destination, had his best season of his career, had a great connection with Mike Evans, and really seems like Dave Canales' I guess magic touch sort of rubbed on him, as he was the I guess consistent factor between what's it called, Geno Smith and Baker Mayfield's resurgence to prominence. So pretty exciting. I think that he found a home, and hopefully they re-sign him to a somewhat long-term deal, because he's still a really young quarterback. Probably gets a relatively lower, like 30 mil, something like that, with a lot of incentives. I could be wrong. I have no idea what the quarterback market looks like these days, considering Daniel Jones got paid $40 million and is not very good. And we'll get to that in just a minute. As far as potential cuts or just guys that are going to be traded for less than their value, most likely, and that would be Russell Wilson. I don't think that he is returning to Denver. Once they benched him those last two games, I knew about the financial implications, but realistically, I don't know if him and Sean Payton were really on the same page. And I'm a big fan of Russell. I think that the Broncos did significantly better, and Russell Wilson did significantly better this year as opposed to the year before. With I forgot their coach already. He was pretty bad. The offensive coordinator for the Jets. Whatever, Aaron Rodgers is a dude. Anyway, I still think Russell Wilson has some left in the tank, even though he's 35 years old, and signed a major contract. I feel like the Broncos are gonna have to eat that contract, and probably have to go discount quarterback shopping. Maybe get a guy like Garner Minshew, or draft a guy somewhat later like JJ McCarthy, or maybe hold out a year and try to get Sean Doerr. He's already playing in Colorado. That'd be a cool landing spot. But we're getting ahead of ourselves if we're talking about drafting a guy in another year. Anyway, I think that the Broncos are moving on from Russell Wilson, and like I alluded to earlier, I'd love to see him pretty much wherever Justin Fields doesn't land, so that would be Atlanta or the Raiders, Las Vegas. Moving on to Garner Minshew, like I said, I think he makes sense to go to the Broncos, since they're on a sort of discount starter deal. Um, Jacoby Brissett might go back to New England. Gerard Mayo has probably some connection and might like that continuity, but who knows really. As far as drafting guys, I think that the Bears are going to get Caleb Williams with the first pick if they move on from Justin Fields. If not, I think that they should go with Marvin Harrison Jr. I think he's the best pure talent in this draft when it's really all said and done. He's really incredible. His dad was an All-Pro and a Hall of Famer with Peyton Manning, so I believe that it's in his genes. He's 6'5". I think he's even a little bit bigger. Has incredible route running. Makes toe drag swag catches. It really looked like he would have been a top 5 receiver in the NFL this year as he was in college. Any NFL team could use a guy like him and would benefit from a wide receiver of his caliber and skill set. I think that any offense would be just thrilled to get a guy like him. So the Bears, if they don't get Caleb Williams and get a new quarterback, that's the move. As far as the Commanders, I think that they're doing Drake May from North Carolina, which is kind of funny, replacing a UNC quarterback with another UNC quarterback. Although Drake May is much more of the prototypical size and caliber of a NFL quarterback. I love Sam Howell. He's fun to root for. But ultimately, Drake May's got more of that like Justin Herbert build. I think he's about 6'3", 6'5", somewhere in that range, and just a nice pocket passer with some electric mobility. And Jaden Daniels, who's definitely a dual threat guy. He's currently most likely slotted to the Patriots. Would be nice if they got a new quarterback, similar to how D'Amico Ryans and CJ Stroud paired up with the Texans last year. It would be cool to see Gerard Mayo follow in similar footsteps and get a quarterback like Jaden Daniels to rebuild, and who knows, maybe make the playoffs year one. I think Gerard Mayo has a lot of similarities to D'Amico Ryans as far as just their caliber of play and sort of on-field coaching in their locker rooms back in the day. As far as other interesting quarterbacks, Michael Penix, Washington quarterbacks, is very interesting. I think he's a little older. I think he's 24, 25. J.J. McCarthy's also a little bit older. Very interesting as well. And Bo Nix out of Oregon. I like him a lot. But it looks like he's been falling a lot in the NFL, I guess, scouting caliber eyes. Jordan Travis was also a really interesting prospect from FSU. He got hurt right before the playoffs, which was really annoying, but could see some of these guys landing in some interesting spots. I think that the Giants and Vikings are probably interested in adding a quarterback. Daniel Jones is on a big contract and still sort of not unproven and doesn't necessarily have the locker room. So getting a young guy to add some competition would be interesting. Guy like Penix would really light up a fire, or even Bo Nix. Vikings adding guys, they did get Jaron Hall. I don't think he really got on the field much this year or showed any promise. So getting another guy to learn from or learn under Kirk Cousins would be nice. Bo Nix could very likely go to one of those teams that's sort of rebuilding, like I said, the Falcons, the Raiders, or even what was the third team I was thinking of? The Broncos. And that's pretty much it. I guess the Steelers could also be interested in a quarterback for similar reasons with Daniel Jones, and the Giants, Kenny Pickett just, I don't know how high his ceiling really is, and it would be nice to at least get another arm in there to add some competition and light a fire under him. And if he goes down, at least carry the reins. But we will see. That's pretty much what I've got as far as quarterback movement, options, draft opportunities. Relatively concise, I'd like to think. Pretty excited for the Super Bowl. Not too happy about the teams. I was really rooting for the Ravens and Lions in the championship games. But beggars can't be choosers, and we got two red teams in the Super Bowl. And by default, I am sort of rooting for the 49ers just because I am not really a big fan of Kansas City. They beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl last year, so I have no reason to root for them this year. It's cool that I guess they're sort of reclaiming a new dynasty as New England sort of ended their chapter, especially with Belichick and Brady now out of there. Looks like a new dynasty is sort of emerging. I hope that's not the case. Hopefully, Brock Purdy and the Niners can keep them busy. And it'd be nice to see them defeat the hump. The 49ers have been in the Super Bowl. I think this is their third time in the past 5-10 years. So they haven't won one, and it'd be really great for Shanahan, for Kittle, for Purdy, for CMC, Debo, Ayuk, the whole offense. Even guys on defense with Bosa. So we'll see. And they got a nasty defense. So, but the Chiefs do too. It should be a great Super Bowl. 2 number 1 seeds. Taylor Swift will most likely be there. I think that she's got her Eras tour in Japan. But I saw some TikTok, someone doing the math that she should be able to arrive in Las Vegas around like 3 p.m., which is plenty of time to make it for kickoff, even with the shower and PR and makeup and all that fun stuff. But we'll see. That's pretty much all I've got. Apparently, the Raiders are potentially interested in Chip Kelly as an OC. That'd be interesting. Keep your eyes on that. A lot of coaching staffs are being assembled as the head coaches are sort of starting to get their spots all in line. So we will see who goes where and what teams retain their guys. But anyway, that's pretty much it. Another, I guess, fun nugget is that the Eagles apparently were very interested in Bill Belichick if Sirianni didn't work out or didn't agree to coaching changes. The coaching changes seemed pretty obvious and inevitable, and pretty remarkable the fact that one of the most successful coaches in a 3-year span is already on a hot seat, but the expectations are very high in Philadelphia, and Sirianni understands that. And don't be surprised if the Eagles are interested in Belichick next year if things don't work out with Sirianni, because it seems like he is, I guess, just gonna sit the season out. But I think he's still very interested in coaching. Maybe he'll get into broadcasting or college coaching. I wouldn't be surprised if he coached lacrosse for a year or something. I heard his daughter's, I think, on the Wesleyan team, so I don't know if he knows anything about women's lacrosse, but maybe he would coach the men's team. I know Wesleyan's got a pretty good lax team. I played lacrosse in high school. Fun sport, awesome sport. Belichick's a great ambassador for it. He's been to the championship games the past few years. Maybe not this year, but in general, he repping the PLL and college championships, and might love lacrosse more than football. Just kidding. But maybe not. I don't know. Steve Spagnuolo's defense has also been shining throughout the playoffs and this season. The Chiefs' defense has been, I think, ranked number 1 or 2 pretty much all season. I don't even know too many guys on their secondary, but Karlaftis and Chris Jones have been getting great pressure all year, and their guys and their cornerbacks have been holding up and doing all right. So disguising blitzes and coverages and whatever seems to be working so keep it up, Kansas City. Although hopefully you bleed a little bit in a week or two, so we will see. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this stream of Shawnee football. Until next time, we will see you